How many of you know what ChatGPT is? Please raise your hand. So almost everyone in the room. But in case you don't know what ChatGPT is, ChatGPT is an AI, so an artificial intelligence, that has become extremely popular in these past months because if you give it a prompt, it will write a text from it. And it will do so like a human. So this has become extremely popular among students, as I could see, because, well, we need to do essays, assignments, so we go ask ChatGPT, please summarize this book. And pop, suddenly it does it for you. However, schools have raised awareness that from now on, they no longer know if the assignments are being submitted by the students or by ChatGPT. So schools see ChatGPT as a threat. However, I have to be very honest. I was given the opportunity to do this TED Talk, and I took it. Of course, it's a TED Talk. But I didn't realize that I had to actually write a speech, a 15-minute speech. That's really long. So as the good student that I am, I went to ChatGPT, and I asked them, write TED Talk on education. And pop, suddenly a perfect, flawless 10-minute speech on every point I wanted to say. I was so excited, no? Suddenly all of this work, done. So I just handed it in and I get over with it. ChatGPT talks about how we must rethink education, how we need to move past standardized tests, how we need to teach 21st century skills, how we also need to embrace informal learning opportunities in order to further invest the interest of the students. It's great. Everything I wanted to say. However, this made me think, how is it possible that a robot knows about all of this? Or in other words, is it a bit sad that the robot knows about it, but still nothing seems to change? Because if we really look at the educational system, it hasn't changed. But everybody knows this, even an AI. So then the question, why nothing seems to change? Today, we're going to answer this question, and we're going to look at the 5 steps of the educational revolution. So to change right now the educational system. The first step is size. In the new educational model, all classrooms should be, on average, 20 students max, and 1 teacher per every 10 students. Now, what this will allow is for greater interaction in the classroom, so that the students can meaningfully engage with the knowledge. Now, maybe you will disagree, and there are actually still a lot of research to be done on this area. There are some people that really enjoy lectures, just going there and listening to a teacher speak 400 students. But then my counter-argument will be, okay, if that's education, then why not just listen to a podcast, or watch a YouTube video, or read a book? The educational system should be much more than just a place to transmit information, but a place to meaningfully engage with it. So, okay, let's agree for a second that indeed we need to reduce the classroom size. Maybe you have another counter-argument. It will be, Iago, it's basically unfeasible. We just don't have enough human and economical capital to achieve so. Which is fair enough. That's indeed very much true in many places. However, we already have a solution. And to find it, we must look eastwards to Japan. So there, sure, the system might not be perfect, but they have developed this system, the Toban system, which we could implement everywhere right now. The Toban system is basically a precedential system. So what it is that on a daily basis, one student, independently of their knowledge or their aptitude, is assigned class president. So it becomes the teacher assistant. It will lead class discussions, it will prepare the materials for today, it will help for any kind of quarrel in the class. And suddenly the students are becoming involved in the classroom. They are no longer just actively, passively listening, but they are also actively participating in the class discussion. Furthermore, it will also make students much more empathetic to one another, and it will develop skills such as teamwork, discipline, autonomy, responsibility, all of these skill sets that we must still start teaching to our kids. Second point, classroom dynamics. And this really goes linked with the first step, to reducing size. The teacher should no longer be teaching, as in, should not be the almighty powerful person that knows everything and speaks and everybody else just listens. Instead, the teacher should be a guider, a facilitator, which will allow for discussions in classroom, and the students, therefore, become much more active and participating in the classroom. In other words, the education should be not teacher-led, but student-led. The students should be marking the pace. Third point, project-based. Once more, really linked with everything that has been already talked, and even ChatGPT already said this. Standardized tests really are not working. And the research has proven this time and time again. We really need to start assessing our students in practical terms, and we really need to start applying our knowledge to real life. Because how many times have you heard, wow, this that I'm learning is so useful, I'm going to use it in my future career? Sadly enough, that's not the case. And more often than not, it feels like, why am I learning this? Is this really that important? No wonder, because the knowledge and practice is completely separated. So we must merge that gap between knowledge and practical. And designing our education through project-based will be much more useful. Finally, gamification. What gamification really means is that we must introduce game-like context into non-game context. So, for instance, we'll try to make education a bit more fun by introducing some games into the classroom. Because my question will be, when was the last time that you heard someone saying, oh wow, I had so much fun today at school? It's like having fun while learning. Sadly enough, that also doesn't happen. And my question will be, why are we trying to go away from this productive type of model in where parents or adults go to the office and they type into a computer for 8 hours and they go home? We're starting to try to move past that model. However, we insist that our students must go to a class, take a pen, and spend 8 hours just copying a teacher. This really is not the system to thrive. And we can actually make education fun another time. And how to do so? Well, through technology. Now, I think we can all agree, technology is in everyday life. We basically have it everywhere. We live in a technologized society. So we must teach with technology and on technology. But the question that I pose will be, what type of technology are we implementing in the classroom? If we actually just look around to this room, we see technology such as a projector, microphone, speakers, cameras. All of this technology, what really is doing is entrenching and further developing old educational models, in where the teacher just comes here with the microphone and speaks to an audience. In other words, we are investing in what we call communication technology, technology that just transfers knowledge. And what we should start implementing is technology that creates knowledge, and technology that will help us encompass all of these steps of the educational revolution. And this technology is called creative technology. Now, creative technology is not magic. It's not a platform that you just put on a classroom and pop, suddenly everything solved. What creative technology really is about is a tool set that teachers can use in order to try and encompass all of these steps. So it helps them in order to make a more interactive classroom. As of now, creative technology has already been successfully implemented in Spain, in Barcelona, where I used to work, and it has been specifically implemented for what we call STEM, so teaching science, technology, engineers, arts, and maths. So truly, an interdisciplinary tool set. Furthermore, we have also successfully managed to teach the 21st century skills, such as creativity, digital and digital communication, collaboration, and curiosity for learning. Now, how does creative technology then look when applied? Let's look at some examples. So this is the first example. It may not look like it, but this is physics class. And you may say, well, my physics class doesn't look like it. No wonder. So what we were doing here is we were teaching astronomy. And we're teaching all of the engineers and the physics behind astronomy. And suddenly one of the students asked, well, what if I want to become an astronaut? How would that look like? And suddenly the class dynamics changed. The students' interest becomes the forefront, and we told them, okay, well, if you want to become an astronaut, what do you think you should do? And they said, well, you probably have to study, and you probably have to train for it. I said, okay, let's develop an astronaut training. And this is how it looks. So they are training right now, and they are using the iPad in order to measure all of the different trainings that they are doing. The second example. In this example, what we're looking at is a cable car. And here we ask the students to develop a smart city, because we really need to start living in more sustainable cities. So here we start to see how important project-based is and how we apply the knowledge to real life. And so the students developed this cable car as a more sustainable way to mobilize citizens across a city. But we wanted to take this a step further, and we also asked them, okay, in what other scenarios could it be used? And we asked them about climate change. Sadly enough, climate change is here to come, and more natural disasters are going to happen throughout the years, floodings, hurricanes, etc. And so we asked them, okay, try to further develop this idea so that they could, for instance, evacuate cities whenever a flooding happens. So at the end, they developed this idea. So once more, an example of how project-based and technology can help us create a more interactive, a more practical education. Finally, this is during COVID pandemic, 2021, and the students were really upset because they couldn't go outside and play football. And so we asked them, okay, let's try to solve this problem, and let's create football inside the classroom. So created their own system, and they started playing football inside. But we wanted to take this once more a further step. And we asked them, okay, do you realize that maybe there are students that never play football? For instance, because they have physical barriers or they have security issues. How could we implement these ideas that you have developed throughout the world? So once more, we use the technology as a tool in order to try to develop skills and values among students and to make it much more practical into real life. And this is really everything that the Educational Revolution is about, trying to tackle the size of the classroom in order to change the classroom dynamics, start being much more project-based so that we can really become practical with the knowledge, and to make it like a game, really. Learning should be fun. And technology, and a specific creative technology, is this kind of tool set that allows for all of these steps to be achieved. In other words, what the Educational Revolution really is all about is about a teacher that talks less and students thinking more, and students consuming less knowledge but creating more knowledge. Thank you very much.